पाकिस्तान के खिलाफ बहुत सारे महाज खुले, कुछ हमने खुद खोले और काफी सारे हमारे खिलाफ खोले गए। आज के महाज
चाल के नाम। बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम। अस्सलाम वालेकुम। मैं हूं वजाहत सईद खान। 3 किस्म की चालें होती हैं। एक शॉर्ट टर्म चाल होती है जिसे टैक्टिक कहा जाता है, एक मीडियम टर्म चाल होती है जिसे स्ट्रेटजी कहा जाता है, और एक लॉन्ग टर्म चाल होती है जिसे ग्रैंड स्ट्रेटजी कहा जाता है। अगर पिछले 3 साल का हिसाब लें तो इमरान खान की जो टैक्टिक्स हैं, जो उनकी शॉर्ट टर्म चालें हैं, हमें नजर आती हैं। प्रोटेस्ट करना, एहतजाज करना, अपने हक के लिए निकलना, सोशल मीडिया पे एक्टिव होना, डिजिटल मीडिया पे एक्टिव होना, और ऑफ कोर्स इलेक्शन लड़ना, अपने हक के लिए इलेक्शन लड़ना। मगर ये जितनी भी शॉर्ट टर्म चालें थी, टैक्टिक्स थे, जो इमरान खान ने कोशिश की, पीटीआई ने कोशिश की, उनके सोशल मीडिया वॉरियर्स ने कोशिश की, उनके पार्लियामेंटेरियंस ने कोशिश की, उनके वोटर्स सपोर्टर्स ने कोशिश की, इन सब चालों को अपने हथकंडों से पाकिस्तान की जो एस्टैब्लिशमेंट है, पाकिस्तान के जो फौजी हैं और उसके जो पटवारी हैं, उन्होंने उसको काउंटर किया, इलीगली काउंटर किया, जोर जबर से काउंटर किया। कहीं लोगों को उठा लिया, कहीं लोगों को अगवा किया, कहीं लोगों को अरेस्ट किया, कहीं लोगों को कत्ल कर दिया, कहीं लोगों के घर पे डाका मारा, कहीं लोगों के इलेक्शन के वोट पे डाका मारा। ये पिछले 2-3 साल की समरी है, मगर ये सब शॉर्ट टर्म टैक्टिक्स थे। अब दोनों साइडें सेटल हो गई हैं क्योंकि एक स्टेलमेट हो गया है। एक तरफ जो स्टेलमेट है उसमें इमरान झुक नहीं रहे, रुक नहीं रहे, और दूसरी तरफ जो एस्टैब्लिशमेंट है वो भी झुक नहीं रही, भी रुक नहीं रही, वो भी अपना जुल्म कर रही है, और इमरान भी अब जुल्म के खिलाफ, उनकी पार्टी जो है जबर के खिलाफ अभी भी खड़ी हुई है। तो इस जब शॉर्ट टर्म टैक्टिक्स जो हैं, जब इनका स्टेलमेट हो जाए तो फिर स्ट्रैटेजी को बदलने का वक्त आता है। आज शो के दूसरे हिस्से में फौज जो अपनी स्ट्रैटेजी बदल रही है, स्पेशली जो पिछले 6-8 महीनों में हमने देखा है, ऑपरेशन सिंदूर के बाद ये बड़ा दुनिया के फेवरेट बन गए हैं, अपने जहाज बेच रहे हैं, ट्रंप की गोदी में बैठ रहे हैं, बड़ा इंटरनेशनल जो कॉन्फ्लिक्ट्स हैं उसमें घुस रहे हैं, मिडल ईस्ट में, नॉर्थ अफ्रीका में, लिबिया, गजा, सूडान, यमन, बांग्लादेश, इंडोनेशिया, सबके साथ मिलिट्री डिप्लोमेसी कर रहे हैं, मगर उसका फायदा इन्हें नहीं हो रहा। कल परसों में ही वीजा बैन हो गया है। पाकिस्तान उन 75 ममालिक में है जिनके ऊपर ट्रंप साहब ने बैन लगा दिया है। आज शो के दूसरे हिस्से में हम वॉशिंगटन का पर्सपेक्टिव लेंगे कि पाकिस्तान के जो फौजी हैं, इतना नाच गाना करने के बावजूद उनको ये क्यों उनके साथ सलूक हुआ, उनकी स्ट्रैटेजी जो है क्यों फेल हुई, ये हम शो के दूसरे हिस्से में बात करेंगे। मगर शो के पहले हिस्से में हम नजर डालते हैं जल्दी से इमरान खान की जो स्ट्रैटेजी है। इमरान भी जान गया है, मान गया है कि मुझे अभी ये नहीं निकालेंगे। जितना मैं अनबेंडिंग रहूंगा, जितना मैं नहीं झुकूंगा, उतना ये और सख्ती करेंगे। इसलिए कुछ और लोगों को सामने लाने का, कुछ और इत्तेहादी ग्रुप्स के साथ पार्टनर अप, टीम अप करने का वक्त आ गया है। अब वो जो टीम अप है वो आज ऑफिशियली इमरान ने, आप कह सकते हैं, एक नया नायब कप्तान पार्लियामेंट में लगाया है। इमरान के 2-3 नायब कप्तान हैं, एक पार्लियामेंट में मतलब नेशनल असेंबली में, एक सेनेट में, और एक गवर्नेंस के लिए केपी में है। हमने पिछले दिनों में आपको एक्सप्लेन किया था कि ये अलग अलग तरीकों से इनको क्यों लगाया गया है। अब ये जो है आज मीटिंग हुई है, स्पीकर के दफ्तर में हुई है, नेशनल असेंबली में पाकिस्तान तहरीक इंसाफ के तमाम लीडर्स हैं, मगर जिस बंदे का नाम इन्होंने लगाया है, मतलब महमूद खान अचकजई का, वो इस मीटिंग में नहीं है। बाकी सब हैं, नॉमिनेट कर रहे हैं कि हमारा नया जो टीम लीडर है पार्लियामेंट में, उसका नाम महमूद खान अचकजई है, ये उसके कागजात हैं, मगर खुद महमूद खान अचकजई किधर है? महमूद खान अचकजई इधर है। अब महमूद खान अचकजई को पाकिस्तान तहरीक इंसाफ के पार्लियामेंटेरियंस इस्लामाबाद में नॉमिनेट करते हैं, मगर महमूद खान अचकजई जो है वो कराची चले जाते हैं। हमने पिछले दिनों में ये पहले भी देखा कि महमूद खान अचकजई उन जगहों पे जा रहे हैं जिधर जमीन तैयार कर रहे हैं पाकिस्तान तहरीक इंसाफ के चीफ मिनिस्टर सुहेल आफरीदी पहले गए लाहौर, पीछे महमूद खान अचकजई आ गए अल्लामा राजा नासिर साहब के साथ, फिर कराची गए, जबरदस्त उधर मेला लगा, मजमा लगा, जबरदस्त पार्टी हुई कराची हैदराबाद में। उनके पीछे दूसरा रन लेते हुए अब महमूद खान अचकजई आ रहे हैं। अब तीसरी जगह जो आज सुहेल आफरीदी गए हैं वो कबायली इलाकों में गए हैं, तीरा गए हैं, और तीरा में जो बाय द वे जो उनका आप कह सकते हैं होम टर्फ है, अब एक्सपेक्टेड है कि ये जो कबायली इलाके हैं इधर भी शायद हमारे नए लीडर ऑफ द ऑपोजिशन आए। ये हो क्या रहा है, ये क्यों हो रहा है, इमरान की स्ट्रैटेजी क्या है, हमने पहले भी एक्सप्लेन किया है मगर फिर इसको समझना जरूरी है। पाकिस्तान में कुछ सियासी प्रेशर पॉइंट्स हैं, कुछ दुखती रगें हैं जो फौज जिनके बारे में काफी एक्स्ट्रा सेंसिटिव है। एक तो हमारे जो पश्तून इलाके हैं जिधर लड़ाई भी हो रही है, जिधर जंग भी लगी हुई है, जिधर प्रो इमरान मूड भी है, जिधर एंटी एस्टैब्लिशमेंट मूड भी है, उन इलाकों को टच करना जो है वो जरूरी हो गया है, और उन इलाकों से रिप्रेजेंटेशन निकालना, लीडर निकालना, लोग निकालना, लड़के निकालना, वोटर निकालना उन इलाकों से इंपॉर्टेंट हो गया है। इसलिए इन इलाकों को हॉट रखना जरूरी है। ये कौन से इलाके हैं? ये पहले तो ऑब्वियसली हमारे कबायली एरिया, हमारे पश्तून इलाके जो केपी में लगते हैं, जिधर से इमरान ने सुहेल आफरीदी को निकाला। फिर वो पश्तून इलाके जो बलोचिस्तान में लगते हैं, उधर से इमरान खान ने अचकजई को निकाला। और फिर वो अर्बन एरियाज जिधर एक क्लियर इमरान खान का हमेशा मैसेज गया है, स्पेशली इमरान खान के बयानिए में एक आप कह सकते हैं करबला का मैसेज, एक हुसैनी मैसेज, एक लड़ने का मैसेज, जिहाद का मैसेज और जुल्म के खिलाफ जो है खड़े होने का मैसेज, जो हुसैनी मैसेज है, वो MWM जो एक अर्बन जमात है उनके लिए गया है। इसलिए इमरान ने इन तीन लोगों को, सुहेल को, अचकजई को और अल्लामा साहब को, अलग अलग पार्टीज के अलग अलग लोगों से अलग अलग इत्तेहाद करके ये अपना गेम बनाया है। अब ये लॉन्ग टर्म गेम है। इमरान खान का सुहेल आफरीदी को कराची भेजने से कल फौज जो है अपने हथियार नहीं डाल देगी, परसों इलेक्शन नहीं करवा लेगी, मगर इमरान इज टचिंग सेंसिटिव एरिया, शोइंग कि ही स्टिल हैज द फोर्स ऑफ द पीपल बिहाइंड हिम। क्योंकि ये अब जो बात चल रही है इज टू ब्रिंग द फौज टू द नेगोशिएशन टेबल। इमरान की स्ट्रेटजी जो है वो ये है कि फौज इमरान से आके बात करे, इमरान इतना अपना मसल दिखाएं, कहीं कबायली इलाकों में, कभी बलोचिस्तान में, कभी केपी में, कभी कराची में, कभी लाहौर में, इतना मसल दिखाएं कि फौज लॉन्ग टर्म में मजबूर हो जाए। और ये होता रहेगा, आप देखेंगे ये एक साइकिल नहीं है, ये बार बार होता रहेगा जब तक एक स्ट्रीट मूवमेंट जो है इतनी कल्मिनेट कर जाए, इतनी पक जाए कि फौज और एस्टैब्लिशमेंट वगैरह जो हैं इमरान से आके बात करें। आई थिंक दिस इज क्वाइट इंटरेस्टिंग एंड आई थिंक इट इज क्वाइट स्मार्ट, क्योंकि दूसरी तरफ जो फौज है वो समझ रही है कि अमरीकियों की गोद में बैठ के, चीनियों के साथ जहाज बना के, सऊदियों के साथ डिफेंस पैक्ट्स करके पाकिस्तान चलेगा नहीं। पाकिस्तान इतनी आसानी से नहीं चलेगा। पाकिस्तान के अंदर से चलेगा, पाकिस्तान के बाहर से नहीं चल सकता। यही जो पॉइंट है, ये हम पॉइंट वॉशिंगटन लेके जाते हैं। हमारे दोस्त माइकल कुगलमैन जो एक जबरदस्त किस्म के तज्जियाकार हैं, उनसे बात करते हैं कि इस सब का फायदा अंदरूनी तौर पे पाकिस्तान को हो रहा है या नहीं हो रहा। ये जो अमरीकियों की गोद में जाके पाकिस्तान के फौजी बैठ गए हैं, इस सब के साथ अब हम रुख करते हैं वॉशिंगटन का, तोपों का रुख वॉशिंगटन की तरफ करते हैं। जबरदस्त प्रोग्राम है, जबरदस्त इंटरव्यू है। बड़े दिनों बाद मैं कुगलमैन के साथ बैठा हूं। शेयर, लाइक, सब्सक्राइब, कमेंट करें और अब मेरे साथ वॉशिंगटन का रुख करें। Okay, so it's that time of the week when we pivot to Washington, D.C. for the one and only, but never lonely, the South Asia wala, Michael Kugelman, recently crowned as the lead at the Pakistan project at the famed Atlantic Council. Mike, Happy New Year, belated Happy Holidays, lots of Mubarak on the new gig. Nothing has changed in terms of your wardrobe. I still see the old daddy flannel you're sporting, but tell me, how's the new gig? How are the holidays?
Yeah, thank you very much. Belated Happy New Year to you as well. This is a flannel shirt that probably would have been much more trendy about 30 years ago. But thanks for the backhanded compliment, if it was one. Thanks for the congrats. And just to clarify, I'm a senior fellow for South Asia at the Atlantic Council, leading our work on South Asia. But indeed, there is more to come, particularly specifically on Pakistan-related activities. So very exciting. It's good to have you back. I know that you were doing your cross-country trip, and one thing that I meant to ask you earlier is if you have designs on being a Pakistani Tocqueville and perhaps drafting a memorable impression of your time around the country. It doesn't
I don't
happen
know.
very often these days.
I don't know about that, but I do have some ambitions. Maybe I can be the Pakistani Bourdain, traveling around in a depressingly small car in a engagingly large country. There's a lot about America that I didn't understand that I have understood on this trip. Ended up having lots of adventures, especially in the West, which has always been a sort of an ambition of mine to really understand the great American West. But you'll see more of that later, Mike. Right now, instead of the West, let's pivot to the East instead, in specifically the Middle East. Now, Pakistan's in, if you're a Star Wars fan, you'll get it. Pakistan's in hyperdrive mode right now. It's just going through galaxy to galaxy, country to country, deal after deal. Your newsletter, the Foreign Policy South Asia Brief, really lists it out, and one after the other. Pakistan's batting all for all. $1.5 billion deal with Sudan, a $4 billion package with the not the Libyans, but the Libyan National Army, not the official government of Libya, but yeah, close enough. Pakistan is negotiating an arms deal with the Saudis, with whom it already has a defense treaty. It's talking to Turkey. It's talking to the Bangladeshis, the Indonesians, the Iraqis. The Azerbaijanis have already featured as the biggest arms transaction in Pakistan's military trade history. This is hyperdrive. What's going on? What are they drinking? What are they eating? This is great gut health for a usually slow Pakistani digestive tract. What's up?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's a number of things going on here. One, I mean, the context is important. Pakistan has always viewed the Middle East or the broader MENA region as important strategically. Some of its closest partnerships are there, particularly the GCC states, the Arab Gulf states, right? Yeah, I think it's also capitalizing on the geopolitical moment. So there's a lot happening in the Middle East, and Pakistan can bank on its close proximity to the region. It borders Iran. It's a gateway to the Middle East. Yeah, I think that we also have to look at the clear motivation being Pakistan's desire to leverage the heck out of the Operation Sindoor, the conflict with India last year. I mean, this is very clear that it's trying to make the case that it's what it describes as its Air Force's very strong performance in the conflict with India, including shooting down several jets. Of course, the Indian government has still not formally acknowledged this, but there's so much evidence to indicate that several jets were shot down, trying to capitalize on that to pitch its kit, so to speak, and particularly fighter jets. And so many of these arms deals that have emerged as coming or having been finalized focus on that exactly. I know we're going to talk about that more specifically. So that's a big part of this. I mean, there might be a geopolitical angle to this too. I mean, India has a very significant level of influence in the Middle East and the MENA region as well. Some of its closest partnerships are in the Middle East. It's very close to the GC states as well. So maybe Pakistan's looking to try to checkmate India on that level. But I think that the main driver for what we're seeing now really is Pakistan wanting to capitalize as much as it can on its performance in that conflict with India.
So they had that moment, which you call an impressive performance in versus India, but there's also risk of entanglements as well, right? I mean, yeah, you can't have too much of a good thing, but this is a little tricky and perhaps outside Pakistan's wheelhouse. In Libya, they're backing the faction that is, that doesn't like Turkey, because Turkey's backing the other faction. In Sudan, there's a bit of a face-off between their two friends, the Saudis and the Emiratis. In Yemen, they are with the Saudis, clearly, because of that engagement, not with the Emiratis. This is a weird sort of like, I don't know. This is a strange sort of, they're picking and choosing their battles And this could get tricky in the long run, and especially now with Iran, which is the trickiest of them all. They're in a strange little position. They're obviously very chummy with Washington, but they also have a 1,000-mile long border with the Iranians. It's complicated. Tell me more about how you think they'll negotiate through these crevices of geopolitics.
There definitely is a risk that Pakistan could get dragged into geopolitical rivalries in the Middle East. And historically, Pakistan has sought to project itself as a neutral, particularly when it comes to the Saudi Arabia-Iran competition. I do think that the rapprochement deal between the Saudis and the Iranians a few years ago, brokered by Beijing, has given Pakistan more diplomatic space to actually project itself as a neutral. Of course, it's much closer to the Saudis than it is to the Iranians, but it has wanted to engage more with Iran, even though it would not want to. It's not going to go in the direction it has with the Saudis. The fact that you now have that Saudi-Iran deal gives Pakistan a bit more space. But given everything that's going on now, yes, I think there are a number of risks for Pakistan. You mentioned some of the key examples, particularly the Sudan one, because there it's very clear that the Saudis are backing the Sudanese government. The UAE is backing the rebels. Pakistan is going to be sending weapons to the Sudanese government. What does that mean for its relations with the UAE? I mean, just recently, the current UAE president visited Pakistan for the first time. That's a very important relationship for Pakistan as well. And then, indeed, the Libya factor with the Turkish-Saudi competition. I think that Pakistan will have to be very careful about how it carries out this foreign policy. I mean, we know Pakistan, and particularly those in charge, always very sensitive about the idea of Pakistan's image abroad, right? This is a pretty good moment, quite frankly, for Pakistan when it comes to its global image. Other than in India and some of India's closest partners, you don't have many across the world pointing to Pakistan as a terrorist state and focusing on negative things. I think the international community has really stepped back, and now Pakistan is trying to make this case that it's a net security provider, which is a big trendy, is like sort of always been a very favorite term here in Washington to describe India. But now Pakistan clearly wants to be seen as a net security provider in the MENA region with all of these arms that it wants to send to countries there. And I think that the establishment wants the US and other key Western capitals to see Pakistan as that at this moment. So it might be able to do that, but it needs to be really careful about getting entangled in these rivalries in the region. As for the Iran issue, there's been some debate, and I get into this in the piece, about how Pakistan could perhaps be a mediator between the U.S. and Iran. Marco Rubio back over the summer had publicly said that he acknowledged Pakistan's role in offering itself up as a mediator. But, as friendly as the relationship is between Iran and Pakistan now, do the Iranians really trust the Pakistanis to be a mediator vis-a-vis them and the Americans? I honestly don't think so, particularly because of how close the Pakistanis have become to the Trump administration over the last year. So I think that the opportunities for Pakistan there might be limited.
Coming back, important thing. It's become a meme almost. But I want to sort of end on this. The JF-17 Thunder has all of a sudden become Pakistan's favorite export item. I mean, they're selling it to everyone, whoever will take it. Now, I've done a show on the Thunder. It's an affordable platform. It's got a Block 3 version, which they're peddling out now to whoever will get it. They're talking again, in no particular order, the Bangladeshis, the Iraqis, the Indonesians, the Libyans, the Sudanese, though the Sudanese are getting a trainer aircraft. The question really for you is, Mike, I know you're not a specialist in weapons procurement, but do the Pakistanis even have the capacity to roll out squadron after squadron of the Thunder for all these countries? The Indians are pretty skeptical. Their press is all over it because so far the only deliveries that the Pakistanis have made in the last couple of years has been maybe a half a squadron or even less to the Nigerians. They've made that was a Block 2 version. They've shipped out a version to the Myanmar military, which is mostly grounded. And even their own marketing of the Thunder is questionable because even though it was the J-10s, which are made in China and not in Pakistan, which knocked out those 5 or 6 or 7, or if you believe Donald Trump, 8 planes somewhere over the skies of India and Pakistan in last May. Though Donald Trump has been pretty abstract about who knocked out those planes. Still, if it was the J-10s which knocked those out with PL-15 missiles, the Thunder didn't do much except what the Pakistanis claim for it to do, which is knock out S-400 Russian-made Indian air defense systems. I don't want to get into a weapons nerd argument here. I just want you to broadly tell me that is the Pakistani system, manufacturing system, ready to deliver all these weapons, all these platforms to all these countries? Or is this just like marketing?
So you remember what I said at the top about how those in charge in Pakistan are trying to focus on Pakistan's image abroad, right? They want the world to see Pakistan as a net security provider. What better way to convey that image by having all of these reports of deals or potential deals involving these mighty jets? I think for the reasons you mentioned, we should be very skeptical that this will all go forward. There was a piece in the news earlier this week that indicated that 16 countries have talked to Pakistan about these jets since the conflict with India. Of those 16 countries, very few of the talks have been very serious.
Yeah, there's so much to discuss, Mike. I wanted to talk about the ingress, and as today's topic was ingress, Iran and India. We've talked about so much, but I wanted to talk about Palestine and the whole Gaza ISF thing, but more on that when we connect next. But I do have one query, which is at least burning a hole in a lot of people's passports, and that is this visa ban. Now, I saw a tweet from you saying this sort of indicates that despite its proximity to Washington, the visa ban that the Pakistanis have, along with several other countries, been bracketed with and are going to suffer. It sort of shows where Pakistan is placed in the hierarchy of things in Washington. What's your take on that? The Pakistani having lunch with Trump, having another meeting, being called a favorite field marshal, signing deals with the Witkoffs, and obviously nominating Trump for not 1 but 2 Nobel Prizes. All that pandering, all that, for lack of a better term, ass-kissery, hasn't really produced much. What's your take on that? I want a hot take, and then I want to let you go.
By the way, I've never heard that term used in that noun form that you did. That was quite remarkable. What a clever wordsmith you are, my friend. Yeah, so I think that we need to be clear on what really happened here. There was, I don't think that Pakistan was being punished. I and others had said initially, well, yeah, I mean, for these very reasons, Pakistan has done so much to make its relationship with the U.S. work, and now it's having these immigration visa processing suspended. I think that this is an economic decision on the part of the U.S. It was not a political decision. Well, maybe it's a political decision, not a geopolitical decision. This is typical Trump administration, doing things very arbitrarily. President Trump posted a chart on Truth Social some days ago that listed the immigrant groups in the U.S. with the highest percentage of dependence on U.S. public assistance. And most of the countries listed in this chart appear in this list of 75 countries, including Pakistan. Pakistan's figure was listed as 40%. Trump's chart, which, by the way, had no sourcing, indicated that 40% of Pakistani households in the U.S., Pakistani-American households, are dependent on public assistance. I haven't done any recent research on the economics of the Pakistani-American diaspora. You and I know that it's a very affluent one. Could it really be that 40% of the households are dependent on assistance? So that's why I'm a bit skeptical about this whole thing. There were some of the countries that appeared in that chart did not appear in the list of 75. So I actually would push back against those that think that this is a case of Pakistan's pandering and flattery, that sort of failing it. Now, one could argue that Pakistan might deserve a special exception because it's gone particularly out of its way to flatter the president. I think there's been no more robust flatterer than Prime Minister Sharif when it comes to Trump. It's quite remarkable. One could argue, well, maybe Pakistan should have gotten maybe a special exception should have been made for Pakistan. Sure. But again, I think this is really more about economic considerations than anything else, even though the reasoning was flawed for the reason that I mentioned. I mean, do you think 40% of Pakistani-American households depend on public assistance? I just don't think that's true, but what do I know?
Do you think it's going to be reversed?
Well, you never know with the administration. My understanding is that Pakistani officials have been in touch with the administration, hoping to get it reversed. I mean, obviously, if it's only immigration visas where processing is stopped, that's not as bad if you're talking about visa processing across the board. But this is something. This affects green cards. This affects things like that, and that's a really big deal. That's really important, and you have to worry about spillover effects on other types of visa processing as well. So I can understand that the Pakistani officials would be concerned, but I don't know. You never know. I mean, Trump is known for doing U-turns very frequently, but I don't know. I think in light of other political developments in this country recently, I suspect that he's not going to make any reversals anytime soon with this list of 75.
Yeah, it's strange. But firstly, to your point, or rather his point, with outsourcing about 40% of Pakistani households being dependent on the dole, I don't think so. I remember seeing a number that Pakistani, Taiwanese, Japanese, and Indian Americans are amongst the top 4, top 5 ethnic groups who earn the most. In fact, I remember distinctly that the Indian American community, around 4 million strong, is the highest earning immigrant community. And then the Pakistanis were not too far behind. They were definitely in the top 5, from what I recall, a few years ago. But things may change. I think in all of this, the only thing I'm surprised about it is all those efforts, all those all that flattery, especially from Shehbaz Sharif, didn't really end up in helping regular Pakistani folks and families out, and that is a loss. That is a loss. I'm afraid that's all the time we have, Mike. I'm hearing that you're going to be on the road again soon. I hope we don't lose contact. Where are your travels taking you next?
I'll be in Davos next week, so it would be great to talk to you from there. I could do my best to capture the vibe, particularly in terms of Pakistan. I'd be happy to talk to you from there, but don't expect to have me appear alongside someone famous, because we have to keep things realistic in this case. But it'll be fun.
I hope you bump into the Prime Minister and ask him, because he's probably going to be there. They just announced that he's going to be there. Ask him about how his actions and his flattery for Trump ended up doing this. I hope you can ask him that question if you have the opportunity.
That sounds like a nice icebreaker question, right?
All right, Mike. Safe travels. I'll talk to you soon. Take care. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Always a pleasure. Take care.
That was Mike Kugelman. He's running the South Asia program over at the Atlantic Council. He's a senior fellow there. You can follow him at Michael Kugelman. You can follow me at Wajahat Khan. We're on X. We're on Facebook. Do they still call it Facebook? We're on Instagram. We are all over. And we do this South Asia briefing inspired by Mike's foreign policy magazine, South Asia Briefing. The rest of the briefing can be found on Foreign Policy's website, as well as on Mike's timelines, as well as mine. There's a link right here in the description for his latest as well. Share, like, subscribe, comment, and follow independent journalism for independent points of view. I will talk to you very soon. Take care. Pakistan, Zindabad.